Okay, in this video we're going to be updating the firmware on the FreeSky X-Lite transmitter, and this is the first thing I'm going to do on this transmitter before I actually start using it. So this isn't actually the review yet, that'll come later. But if you've gotten this radio, I'd recommend updating the firmware right away. The way I'm going to be doing it is, I guess it would be the normal way, using the micro SD card and getting the firmware from the FreeSky website. I know there's some alternative ways to update this using OpenTX Companion and plugging it into your computer and actually initiating the firmware update process from the computer. But I'm going to do it, I guess, kind of the more simple way. This is probably the way that most people will do their firmware update on their radio. And in order to do that, you need to get a micro SD card, and it goes down here in this little slot right here. I believe the minimum that you'll need is at least a 1 gigabyte. I think I have got an 8 gigabyte in mine, but if you have less than that, it probably won't work. You do need to download some files, and so we'll go to the computer now, and I'll show you where to go download the files that you need, and then what to put on the micro SD card, and then we'll stick it in here, and I'll show you the rest of the update process. Okay, so in order to get all the files to update the transmitter, you got to go to the FreeSky website and to their download page. I'll put a link to the download page in the description. You want to go to the one for the Taranis X-Lite. Then you want to scroll down here to firmware, and the version that I've gotten is this one here, dated June 25th, 180622. So go ahead and click on this and download that. And then the other files that you want to get here are under SD card contents. You want to get both of these. I think this one here, the bigger one, is going to be all the files, like the voice files and stuff like that. So you want to download that. And then this one, dated on July 9th, is an update. I think it has just a couple of updates that's going to match the version that is over here, this version number, because otherwise you'll get a version mismatch error when you turn on the radio. So you want to get both of those. So here I've downloaded all the files. I've got the firmware file here, and the firmware files are actually inside the zip file here. And then you have these two files here. This one here is the main file. If you click in here, these are all the files you're going to copy to your micro SD card. And then again, in this updated version here, you're going to copy all these folders into the same folder that you copied the original micro SD card contents. And this is a subset of what was in the other file, just more updated. It's smaller, and so I put everything into here, and then I've copied all the files into this folder here, and then basically just you copy, you select everything in here, and then just copy it over to your micro SD card. And then in order to get the firmware in the correct spot, you want to put that firmware into this folder here. You want to go into the zip file for the firmware. If you click inside there, you're going to see a bunch of files here. Basically, there's X-Lite FCC and X-Lite LBT. All the ones that are LBT here are for the European Union or EU. Ignore those if you're in the United States, and vice versa. If you're in the EU, those are the ones you want. You don't want the ones that are for FCC. Those are only for the United States. And then you have these files M1 and M2. That's mode 1 or mode 2. For me, I'm going to be using mode 2. If you fly mode 1, you want to get the mode 1 file. And in this case, you want to get the bin file, not the DFU file. So in my particular case, I got the X-Lite FCC M2 file. And then I'm going to put that into my SD card contents here. I'm going to drag that over here, and then you want to drag that file into the firmware file, make sure it's in here, and then everything that is in this folder should go to the micro SD card, and that way the radio can find it when you turn it on. Okay, so once you've installed the files onto the micro SD card, and specifically the firmware update file in the firmware folder, go ahead and put the micro SD card into the slot here. You've got to go into bootloader mode on the radio in order to do the firmware update. And to do that, you have to hold down this 4-direction joystick here and hold down all 4 of them. So if you press down just one, so there's down and then left and right and up, it won't work. You got to hold all of them down. It's kind of hard. You got to press down in the middle, and it's a little tricky to do. But once you do that, you basically turn the power on by just pressing the power button down really quickly and letting go. Normally you would hold it down for 4 seconds. You see the little 4 dots, then it'll turn on the transmitter, but that doesn't go into bootloader mode. So you got to hold down this button here, all 4 of them, and then just press and hold the button, and then you'll see that you'll go into a bootloader mode here, and it'll show you the version of the firmware you have on there right now. I've already updated my firmware, so your numbers will be different here. I think the 222 bootloader is the one that comes with. Then what you want to do is click on Write Firmware, and if you put the correct firmware into the firmware folder on the micro SD card, this should show up on here, and all you have to do is press and hold the enter button, and then it will start writing, and you'll see a little bar across here that says writing a firmware, and then after that it'll say stop, and then you can go ahead and turn the radio off and on, and then your firmware will be updated. Okay, then one more thing you want to make sure you do on the firmware update process is update the bootloader. I'm not sure if it's necessary on the current version, but it's something you should do anyway. So you basically hold the direction stick here to the left to get into the radio setup, and then click over to the right. You get into the SD card contents, and then you want to go down to firmware, click into there, and then here is the firmware again. You want to press and hold the enter button, and then you get this menu here. You want to click on Flash Bootloader. It'll flash, and then it'll say something about flashing successful, and then you should be done. And that's all you need to do at that point, and then you're done. You have the updated firmware on the radio now. So that's pretty much it in terms of updating the radio to the current firmware. I highly recommend that you do that if you happen to get this, because I think pretty much everything that shipped with the original firmware, as far as I know, at least as of today, this is like beginning of August 2018. And you definitely want to get all the bug fixes and stuff to make sure this radio is working properly. Anyway, guys, hope you found this video helpful, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.